Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to this other edition of Prime Hour on Media Prime. This evening, we're going to be looking very briefly on the concept of confederation, asking whether it could be a panacea to our living together. We also are going to be asking the question whether it's time to start thinking about a new capital for Cameroon and also other accompanying cities in this nation. We already thinking about the possibility of creating a Douala B, like the case of, we've seen Nigeria getting a new capital around Abuja. There, we've seen Cote d'Ivoire move its capital from Abidjan to Yamoussoukro. We have seen many other countries do the same. Is it time for Cameroon to also start thinking about that? I remember that during the 2018 elections, the Social Democratic Front had it as one of their projects to move the capital away from Yaoundé. We're going to be looking at that this evening with our panelists who are in the house already. Dr. Ngwanyam is here. They call him the father of the Confederation concept in Cameroon. We're glad to have you with us.
Oh, thank you very much, and good evening to our listeners. We hope that we'll be able to get somewhere today with our new and bright ideas. It's going to be a great evening. Thank you.
Okay. We also in the company of our permanent consultant is in the house. He's not feeling too well, but because of the importance of the topics for today, he moved out from the house to be part of this edition. Good evening, Apostle.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Good evening, Cameroonians. It's always a joy to be here. God bless you as you stay glued to your screens. We're going to be discussing Confederation today. It's the panacea needed to solve the dilemma Cameroon is going through.
Okay. We also are waiting by Achu Julius, who is caught in traffic. I just spoke with him before the program started. He's actually caught in traffic. We hope he beats traffic to join us discuss these two topics for tonight. I'll start with you, Dr. Ngwanyam. The Confederation, so much talked about, many persons are talking about it. You have spoken about it at length. Some people are yet to be convinced about the goodness that this concept would bring to Cameroon, especially when we talk about living together.
Thank you very much. When we talk about confederation, it's not really very different from federation. It just has a little tweak on the federation. And when you follow that tweak, then you pick on the word confederation, but there's nothing to be afraid of. Confederation is a great idea. Federation is a great idea, and these are the ideas that hopefully will bring peace to Cameroon. And when we are talking about federation in Cameroon, it's not federation into 10 states, 20 states, or whatever. It's federation into 2 states, East Cameroon and West Cameroon. Call it confederation is West Cameroon and East Cameroon. So we'll be talking more about West Cameroon and East Cameroon and trying to see what is it that we can do so that peace comes and we live together. We keep that in mind. But what is the difference between federation per se and confederation? I don't have to bother you with that.
The people would want to know.
Oh, well, if you give me the time then, I would say that those two words, federation and confederation, were used interchangeably. And then sometime, at the time in 1961, when Cameroon became a federated state, those two words were used interchangeably. If you said confederation or federation, you meant the same thing. But over the years, you know that language matures and new words are born, and words take different and more definitive meanings, and that's what has happened. And each time I try to define confederation, I use more of examples to help us to understand. When we take a country like Nigeria, which was one big state, one big nation, and Nigeria becomes difficult to manage because of the ethnic diversities and many other diversities, and it's a large population, and you want to break it up into manageable units, then you break it up into federal states. You break it up into federal states. The big chunks are called federal states. Then you come inside the federal states and you can begin to break those ones now into other administrative units. I don't know how they're called in Nigeria, but what we call here divisions and subdivisions would be
local government areas.
Yes, they call them government areas. But that is it for federation. And when you're using the word federation, you are talking about one nation, one nation that starts as a big unit, and then you're subdividing it into smaller units, and the major chunks that you make of it, you call them federal states. And all the federal states, it doesn't matter how many there are, you still have one flag, one Independence Day, and a couple of other things, because you came out as one. But a confederation is a little bit different. In a confederation, the idea is that you have two or more states or nations that decide to come together and fuse to form one big unit. When that happens, then the best term to use is a confederation. You came together, it's a confederation. I think I just want to leave it like that. And you know that we came together, it was West Cameroon and East Cameroon coming together. That's why we use the word confederation.
Okay. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, what makes the difference with a confederation and what we observe now? And does it really matter? Isn't it more of an issue of good governance?
Yes, confederation, or sometimes called confederacy, or a league. It's always like a league. It's a coming together of sovereign states coming together. For instance, if at all Senegal and Gambia ever came together, it would have been a confederation. If at all two sovereign states ever came together. If at all Ghana and Togo ever merged together, it would have been a confederation, it would have been a federation. Look at what happened in Tanzania, or Zanzibar, that came together with the nation Tanzania to form the United Republic of Tanzania. It was more of a confederation, but they have turned it into the United Republic of Tanzania. So it differs with a federation, because a federation is like breaking an apple that is single into different parts. But confederation is like bringing two different fruits to form one. That's how it is. So the case of Cameroon is more of a confederation, because it's two sovereign states that are merging, amalgamating to become one single nation to accomplish one particular task. For instance, the United Nations today, or the League of Nations in those days, was a combination of several sovereign states that came together to form a particular league. And that league had a particular purpose: to maintain world peace and order, to stop further occurrences of wars in the world. That's what we call a confederation. A typology of a confederation is the League of Nations that was established in 1919 after the First World War. That is a picture of a confederation. The case of Nigeria, Lord Lugard in 1914 amalgamated the north and the south of Nigeria, which were not separate nations. They were parts that wanted independence, but they had not gotten independence. But he amalgamated them, and then now they break that particular nation now into federations, which is totally different. A case like the case of Quebec in Canada was part of Canada, but occupied by the Francophones. And because of that, they were given a special status. Thereby, they came as a nation. It was a nation that had to break out into a federation. So when you talk about confederation, it's two sovereign states. Cameroon is not supposed to be called a federation. Cameroon is supposed to be called a confederation, because it is two sovereign authorities that came together. So that's the difference. Like I gave it, the analogy I gave, like federation is like having an apple and splitting it into parts, while confederation is like bringing apple and pear and join them together for them to accomplish a purpose.
Okay, yes, but how does that, such an arrangement, we're talking about living together and peace in Cameroon.
Yes.
How does that arrangement actually?
Now, power in the confederation, power, it has a central power, but a lot of autonomy, a portion of authority is given to a particular sector to enjoy some privileges that is not controlled totally by the central power. Even in federation, in political science, there's something we call direct and quasi. A quasi-federation, like the American Federation, gives the judge of a state the authority to stop a decree from the presidency. Not like that of Nigeria. It is direct, where the central bureau has control over every state, and they have the power to intervene, but not like in America. So you discover that there is a nuance, there is a little slight difference between the quasi-federation and the direct federation. But in a confederation, power is in the central committee, but there is a certain level of autonomy given to that other nation. Considering the fact that he was independent, he did not become a nation because of you, he was not living because of you. I must give you that right and respect because I've come to join you, which if you don't want the relationship to continue, I can still stay away and be independent. Okay. That's what called confederation.
But no, the issue we're talking about living together, unity and everything in Cameroon, what is the problem? Is the problem in the fact that there is no federation or confederation, or there is a problem of bad governance?
The problem of Cameroon, we need to define it again. The problem of Cameroon has to do with bad governance, and then besides the bad governance, there's marginalization of the Anglophones. That's very clear. It is that marginalization. And let me step out again and go over the facts so that we understand very well. In that nation called Cameroon, there is bad governance starting from the east to the west, from the north to the south, which means the green, the yellow, the tall and the short are suffering from bad governance. And then there's bad developments, bad economics and so on. It affects everybody. Then on top of this, the Anglophones get a little more of the weight on their shoulders because of the marginalization, the systemic marginalization that is built into the system. And so when the Anglophones look at these two things, it keeps them very uncomfortable and very unhappy. And that's why they think that if they had some kind of autonomy, they will be a lot happier. And the truth again is that if we were to, when we will go to the dialogue and actually solve the Anglophone problems of marginalization, solve the problem of bad governance, it's also going to free the Francophones.
It's going to free the Francophones.
Yeah.
But if we had good governance in Cameroon, would we be talking about the form of...
No. If we had, in fact, when you put on a pair of shoes and it's not hurting, you have no business with it. But when the shoe starts hurting and you think you have an ingrowing toenail, you think there's a pebble in your shoe, then at the end of the day you realize that the shoe is tight. Then that's when you say, let me do something about the shoe. If the shoe is too tight, I must do something about it. And then someone is saying we must walk 50 kilometers with a pair of shoe that is tight. That's what the problem is. If there were no bad governance, because the marginalization,
the rights of the minority.
The marginalization is also, you can also say marginalization is bad governance taken to an extent. You understand? It's a continuation of the seed of bad governance. You have a double dose of bad governance. So that bad governance is really the bottom line of our problems. And when you try to understand the bad governance, then you would realize that it's built into the system. And Anglophones are aware of the bad governance because they had a different kind of upbringing, so they can see the difference. But the people on this side don't see it, and they think that it ought to be like that, and it's like that, and it was God-given like that, which is not true. Yeah,
but when we come to a Francophone, he was going to lead a protest now, 22nd of September. How do you say the people?
Well, but let's say that there's beginning to be some there's some awakening. There's some awakening. But before coming to the studio, I was just wondering, I think we've said several times that to correct these governance issues, when we correct the form of state, we have also said, in the terms of the Confederation and Federation, that in the next management there will be no appointed governors, appointed SDOs, appointed DOs, and so on, because they are the hub. They are the hub of bad governance.
What if they were to change the way they operate?
No. You don't put new wine into old wine skins. They are bad. You lay them aside and do it differently. And we're just coming, like when they are being installed, they say prenez le commandement. Commandement. You see that word commandement? That word commandement has some negative connotations. Commandement is rule. rule, give orders.
You wanted the man of God to say, okay,
No.
You are blessed to start off.
No. It goes into people's head. So it's like some king or some autocrat, you're breathing down your throat. And go check Anglo-Saxon countries. They have administrators, but they are not in uniform. So you see, ours are in uniform, and they look like army generals and so on, and then they receive salutes from the military and so on. So they also get into their heads that they are part of the army and so on. And so it's so with that kind of a system, it's a military regime in
civilian cloak.
Yeah, in civilian cloak. That's right. But you need to dissociate that and make them real civilians. And in the training, if you go and look at the curriculum from ENAM, you realize that in the training, they emphasize more on public order, that kind of thing, giving orders and so on, and then you receiving honors and salutes and so on. But very little in economic development, very little in development in general, very little in wealth creation and so on. And so the champ d'opération, their scope is limited, and that's why the nation is in this mess, and we really need to change that formula.
Okay, you have to change that formula. We're talking about form of state here, because federation has to do with the form of state.
Correct.
But now, issues of democracy also. Some persons actually think that form of state or not, some African nations would do better under a dictator who has the love and interest of the people at heart. They're using the case of Gaddafi, using the case of Paul Kagame and the president of Equatorial Guinea. Yeah.
Mr. Leo,
because in these nations, we are not talking about federation or regionalization or anything.
You see, the demography of these nations are different,
okay,
as compared to where we are coming from. If you look at countries where you hear of confederation and federation, is when there is a threat for parties to feel independent and split. For instance, the case of Quebec, they were given a special status because they felt like they were a nation within a nation. In order for them not to withdraw from Canada, they had to do something that will make them be part of Canada. The case of Gambia and Senegal, it was a threat. They wanted to come together, but they couldn't go. So they finally became two different nations. Look at Nigeria. We have a challenge today with the Biafra. That is not something that started today. It was the British officer that came to Nigeria, Lord Lugard, that forced those particular sectors of Nigeria, because Nigeria is in three sectors. They have the East, the West, and the South. These three sectors are in serious division, the North, the West, and the East. They have a serious division. So he amalgamated these three different. Now that they have come as three different blocks, there was a need for federation because people needed a certain level of independence. Not like a country like Guinea Equatorial. Guinea Equatorial is not a combination of countries that came together. Not like Rwanda. Rwanda is not a combination of countries that came together. I'm talking about states that came together. And you go to Nigeria, you discover that Biafrans have been threatening to separate from the entire bloc. That is to let you understand that they always have seen themselves as a nation. That was not in Guinea. Now in Cameroon, it is the English people that merged with the French. That's why there is a threat here. So why would we bring this form of government? This form of government gives a certain level of sovereignty. This form of government gives a certain level of authority and autonomy.
Sovereignty or
autonomy.
Yeah.
Autonomy. A certain level of autonomy. This is what people want. Because I cannot come in a business deal with Dr. Nick. I bring 30%, you bring 70%, then you want to tell me tomorrow as a slave in the business because my own portion of the business is small. We will fight. But if I thought I was an employee to him, because the case of Rwanda is like employees coming under an employer. But these are two business partners. There's a difference when you come into partnership. In a conglomerate, partners come with their shares together. No matter how small my share is, I am a partner. You cannot marginalize me because I have a smaller share. It gives me a certain level of right and dividends at the end of the year. I cannot earn salary as a worker. I earn the dividends as a worker. So when nations come together, they are like partners. And you give the other partner a dividend, you don't give him salary. That is what we are seeing in Cameroon. Southern Cameroon came in relationship with French Cameroon. They have come as partners in business. And in this business, they are supposed to share dividends. It is when you employ somebody as an employee giving salary, and the employee has no voice, has nothing to say. If the company makes a turnover of 50 billion per annum and your salary is 1 million, you employed as an employee, you sign a contract of a salary. But when it comes to partners, if the company makes a profit of 50 billion per annum, we are going to be talking about the percentage of the net turnover of the year, not the amount of the salary you're going to pay me. So you are not paying me salary as an employee, you are giving me share and dividend as a shareholder. So Southern Cameroon is not an employee to French Cameroon. Southern Cameroon is a shareholder in this company and should be giving dividends and not salary. I think if I explain it from the economic balance, any common man will understand it. They should be giving dividends, they should not be giving salary. And that's what conglomerates do. If I buy a share in this place tomorrow, at the end of the year, we are going to be sharing dividends. You are going to pay those who are working here salary because they are employees. I am not an employee, I am a shareholder. My share may be small, but give me my dividend because that is due to me as a shareholder.
Now, we're talking about a confederation. How does that actually ensure that people live in peace and in unity?
Oh, thank you very much. We are talking here about our
living together.
Sorry?
Our living together.
Yes, our living together. You know, when you do the right thing, the living together just becomes automatic. There are some things that you don't force them. There are certain things that you don't squeeze them. When you just put the right conditions together, then you get a result. So living together is not even something that we ought to be preaching on television.
Yeah, I'm talking about how confederation
would help us to get that living together. Yes. That's what I'm getting at. Because as of now, we sing living together as a song. We create structures to force living together. No, living together is about love. It's brotherliness. It's brotherly love. It's just automatic. It's agape. And when you understand how to achieve agape, then everything just falls in place. But when you are holding up a flag called agape, but yet you are not doing what agape dictates, then you are preaching a wrong gospel. So now we are looking for a formula that allows people to be able to breathe oxygen freely in the same room and then feel that they belong to the same house. It's very important. And this structure of governance would break Cameroon up into two big pieces, call them West Cameroon and East Cameroon. And you know, there are some mechanisms that are tied in there to satisfy some people who give some complaints about this or that. They don't like this. Of course, you know that there is a small group of people in the Southwest, for instance, who would say they don't want people in the Northwest because people in the Northwest kind of like marginalize them too. They have a right to that. So how do we solve that problem? We don't brush it away. We face the problem and solve it. We do that then. You know, in the state of West Cameroon, you cause decentralization in the state of West Cameroon so that the Southwest can function independently of the Northwest within West Cameroon. Then you need to cause decentralization too in East Cameroon. Otherwise, you know, some hawks would also grab the power and begin to marginalize the people in the north, in Marwa, the Adamawa, and so on. So we need to decentralize too, so that the people of Marwa can vibrate independently of the people in the center, the south, and the east, and so on. So it's very important that we do that. Once we do that, and then we say, okay, look, the presidency has to alternate between East Cameroon, West Cameroon, and East Cameroon in every 10 years. Then people are comfortable. Then let's say, for instance, if the presidency were to come to West Cameroon now, you say, okay, if it's coming to West Cameroon, somebody from the Southwest becomes the president. Next time when it comes around, somebody from the Northwest becomes the president. You know, so when it comes around, it alternates between the Northwest and the Southwest. Then don't forget, You know, these states will each have prime ministers and their small governments and so on. Then there is the national government, so to speak, with reduced ministries. And this national government takes care of things like foreign service, the army and so on. But you let the states do a lot of their business, their development, their economy and so on. You promote that. So it's a whole package. It's a whole package. And then because we identified the problems of Cameroon to be tied to education, for this whole thing to work, our educational system must change in the sense that we have to bring in more technology. These are our schools that we call grammar schools, technical schools. We have to fuse them together to form this kind of school. What is it called again? We had them in Bamenda. It's not. It's no, sir. Remind me. Apostle, some of these schools, we have technical school, comprehensive colleges. Good, yeah. The term is comprehensive colleges. Comprehensive colleges are very good, and that's what we're going to get. What does it mean? You cancel this thing called grammar school. Grammar school is a disaster. And then we have technical schools, but those technical schools. Call it a disaster? Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. No, it's a disaster.
It's a product of.
No, wait. We are not talking about a few who have succeeded. We are talking about what it's doing to the mass. If we don't have jobs and our children are not being creative, it's because of grammar schools. They just have head knowledge. So we are going to cancel the concept of technical college, because now we have given the impression that people who go to technical college are dull ones, which is wrong. So you need to bring all the children together, pull them together, teach them all the subjects, throw in all the technical subjects and so on. Then people will begin to pick up skills and show interest in which way they want to go and so on. And then make agriculture a compulsory subject from nursery school to university. You know, you begin to build a different kind of system that works, and then make entrepreneurship something that is learned practically. There should be industry, there should be practical work and so on. How do you make money? So children grow in it, and so that we don't end up with all this storytelling all over the whole place. The question is, how do you put money into the pockets of the youths? How do you get the youths employed? How do you get the youth useful? Yeah, but how do we solve our problems?
Even if we were to get this confederation or federation, like
yes.
you say,
yes.
If we don't have the required or the competent persons to manage it, isn't it also going to be a disaster?
No. When do you plant a coconut? You plant a coconut when you get the vision about planting a coconut. Don't start looking at your weaknesses or what is lacking, because even if let's put it this way, Cameroon has to be corrected and built by Cameroonians, not by Chinese, not by Americans, not by the French, not by South Koreans. Cameroon has to be built by Cameroonians. So if you think you are weak now, then go ahead and correct that error and do what it takes so that in the next 5 years...
Why are you not fixing what is available now?
No. Fixing what is available now is... See, sometimes you don't put new wine in old wine skins because old habits die hard. We just have to get it right. We have to get it right, and to do it, we must break the old calabash, get new calabashes, and fix that. And
the new calabash is like constructing a new car, but the persons to man these cars are the Cameroonians.
No. We have a lot of people in the diaspora who are willing to come back, and we just need to give them residence cards. If you don't want to give them double nationality, give all of them residence cards so they can come in and go as they wish. They come back, we give them land, give them opportunities to be able to set up industries and so on. Let us do what it is possible. It is possible to do. I have traveled the world over. I've gone to China. I've seen how others are doing it. Singapore did it, and they came out of their misery. Malaysia did it. They came out of their misery. Let's stop giving ourselves all these excuses. If we try to do the right thing in 5 years, people will be running back to Cameroon.
Are you talking about good governance, or talking about form of state?
No, let's put it this way. What you are trying to do is you are splitting it and you are taking a leg over here and arm over here.
I'm helping the audience to understand.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, listen to me then. Let's put it this way. You know, when I'm talking more as an entrepreneur, and I'm wearing the cap of an entrepreneur. And to rule a nation, you have to have an entrepreneur's thinking. You know, when you have a civil service mind, you have a linear kind of thinking, and you cannot associate things. The way the nation is going to form and the way it's going to be built is like this. and even before I get you lost into that into this explanation, let us realize that a country functions on 4 things, or any community or whatever functions on 4 things. Number 1 is politics, number 2 is economics, number 3 is development, and what spins everything around is education. So we are not going to go anywhere if we don't manage these four elements at once. You know, you have to be driving all these 4 things at once. It's very, very important. You cannot choose take one and leave the other. What has happened so far is that for over 60 years, everybody has gone to politics, but we don't understand economics, we don't understand development, and our education has not been the best. So in the next Cameroon, we need to take these 4 elements and make sure that everybody is keenly aware of them and begins to get a good grasp of all these 4 elements at once, and then we push the nation forward. You cannot pick and choose. No, you have to be able to develop all the skills to be able to do all of these things at once, and make sure that we move people from a civil service mentality to an entrepreneurship mentality to a private sector mentality. It's going to be very helpful. And with that, what we have as Commander Magna cannot help us.
Okay. Yes, you are going to add to what you were saying?
Yes, I want to say that the form of a state is like a mold. Everything you feed in a mold will come out the very shape that the mold is. This is a cup. If you put water here and it becomes icy, you remove it, it will have the same shape. If you put chocolate here, it becomes a cloth, it will come out with the same shape. Singapore, the person Hang Liu would turn Singapore into something else, set up some structures. And since he died and went, people who come into that structure are left with no choice than to operate in that same system. And that's the reason why we are talking about the form of the state, because it is like a structure put in place. Anybody that enters there will take the form of that mold. That's exactly what we're talking about. So if at all the mold is producing something wrong, then it's obvious that anyone that sits in that mold, no matter how intelligent you are, you act according to the shape and the design of that mold. So we are talking about the form of the state, because this form of the state will give people the opportunity to express certain abilities which this present form of the state, which is a mold, if you put them inside, they cannot operate. For instance, we have our MPs these days. Our MPs are not going into parliament as politicians to better the society. They are going as a means of livelihood. That mold is supposed to be changed. When an MP is entering into an office, it becomes a challenge. De Gaulle, who introduced the foreign French policies, is dead and gone. Many French presidents have come. That mold that he set in place have not changed. France still maintains that mold over all its 14 territories. Whether it is Macron, whether it is Sarkozy, whether it is Hollande, whether it is who, as long as the mold is in place, whoever ends there will take that shape. This is what we need in Cameroon. We need a mold that, in the absence of President Pop here, in the absence of Apostle Ambe Valentine, in the absence of Dr. Nick, in the absence of Mr. Kum Leonard, any child that was born in 2000, when the child grows up and enters into the mold, the child produces exactly what is in that system. That is the reason why I said the reason we have a problem is that somebody who is a shareholder in a company is paid the salary of an employee. And if this error is not corrected, we will constantly fight every day. For instance, in a company, the privilege given to shareholders is not what they give to employees. A man who has a share in a company has a certain level of authority, and when he comes to that company, he is waiting on what will come at the end of the year as a turnover, so that he can draw his own percentage of the dividend. If you count salary and give to a man that's supposed to earn shares, there must be chaos. And this is what we are talking about. If the Anglophones were giving share, what is that share? The consumption, because Confederation is intergovernmental. It is not interstate. It is intergovernmental. That is to say, 2 different governments that come together to decide on external relations, decide on policies, decide on the currency. Each and everyone has a say to decide. Now, in this company, your share is 5%. Mine is 15%. What is that share? The president is supposed to be a francophone, and an Anglophone is the second in command. That is the share that the Anglophone has. The moment you remove an Anglophone man from the second in command and make him number 4 in command, you are giving him salary when he deserves a share or he deserves dividend. He will fight you because you have broken the terms of operation in that company. You have reduced a shareholder into an employee. Take it in any business organization in the world. The moment you reduce somebody from his registered position, from a shareholder, and you give him the salary of a common employee, that company will never have peace. Take him to the highest court, he will fight you and win you. And this is what we're talking about. Confederation is a coming together of 2 sovereign states. And these sovereign states are coming as shareholders who have a deal. Now, the moment the House of Senate, which is the second in command, did not go to the other shareholder, he went to somebody else, it means the man's position as a shareholder was reduced to that of an employee. This fight is because people are giving salary where they are supposed to earn shares. The form of the state now, which is Confederation, comes now to form a mold like this cup. Whoever comes there tomorrow for the next 20 years will respect the protocol. The leader of Singapore, I've studied him when he came in 1964 and then told it was a part of Malaysia that break out, that formed the nation of Singapore in 1964. Lui Hang came to power and then started dealing with the economy. He structured the economy with an iron fist. Whether you are a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Christian, all of you were left with no choice than to align to the principles set in place. Singapore became the cleanest nation in the world, not because of an individual, because of a system. Other presidents have come since Lee Wang-Hu died, and they have followed that same pattern. Because why? Somebody cannot operate excellently. If you come and operate lesser than what the person has left, it will expose the poor leadership capacity you have. And that's the reason why leadership is always challenging. Go to Ghana. When John Jerry Rawlings came to power, he upgraded the economy. The next person that came, John Agyekum Kufuor, he had to raise the Ghana cedi to equivalent to $1. Why? It was a challenge. I cannot come and meet what has been set as a standard and then I reduce it. The next came line John Evans Atta Mills. He didn't last in power. He started putting. Now we have Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That is to let you understand that Ghana will only progress because an individual took the baton of leadership and set up a mold that if you enter inside, it will be difficult. It was Ferdinand Lopo Oyono in his book, The Oma and the Meda. He said, "Le pied de Mecca ne pouvait pas entrer dans le chaussure de blanc." There are shoes you cannot wear if you enter into leadership.
Okay, there are shoes you cannot wear if you enter into leadership. We are going to be moving straight to our second topic for tonight, which has to do with the need to move our capital from Yaoundé to another setting, as well as other towns in Cameroon. For example, Douala is really populated and also very disorganized. Yes, was the SDF right in 2018 when its flag bearer at the time, Honorable Joshua Ossi, said there was need to move the capital of Cameroon away from Yaoundé?
Yes, there is need for us to begin to think out of the box and see how we solve some of these problems, because you know, what we call cities are not really cities. You know, we had these villages, and they became the centers of growth. And you know, the concentric growth, it was kind of like just growing with no planning, with no strategy, with nothing. So you had all this chaos just spreading and spreading and spreading, and it became very large. So now you have very tall buildings popping up in the middle of nothing, and you know, there's really no order. And you know, whenever the state started, you know, in those early days when President Ahijo, he put these small tiny roads coming from the airport into town. But now those tiny roads, they can't really hold the demographic change. They cannot, you know, they're not sufficient, and people have built so close to the road. If you really want to, you would have to do a lot of breakages, and it doesn't matter how much you break, you can never get it right. So might be not moving might be we will not move the national capital from Yaoundé as it is, but we can move some functions and some activities out of Yaoundé to a different place so as to decongest Yaoundé. Once you decongest Yaoundé, then you probably can panel beat whatever is left to be able to cope with the population and the density of whatever is happening there. And if we were to go back to our West Cameroon and East Cameroon, then it tells us that if we are going to have the state of East Cameroon, then the national capital cannot be in Yaoundé, and then you have the state of East Cameroon having her own capital too in Yaoundé. It's not possible. You must create a different capital for the state of East Cameroon, so that people coming from Marwa, East Betua, and so on, they go to that capital to solve the problems that are connected with their regions and the East Cameroon affairs. And so we now begin to see a reason why we should create a capital in, I said, Ebebda. For those of you who don't know Ebebda, you know, when you're when you're traveling from Yaoundé to Bafoussam or Bamenda, before you get to Bafia, there is that river that you cross, a beautiful place. That bridge and that river, that area is called Ebebda, and you would have noticed that it's a very level area with the density of people. There's very little, but I understand from my university days that there's a tsetse fly issue around there. But I think we have the technology to deal with tsetse fly now. We can build a beautiful city in all these empty areas, and when we are talking about a beautiful city, probably we should understand that we are talking about, you know, something that looks like Abuja, something that looks like Kigali, something that looks modern, so that if we are talking of boulevards or highways, you should be looking at 3 or 4 lanes going that direction, 3 or 4 lanes going the other direction, you know, with the housing lots are well mapped out, so that you can able to number your house number 1, 2, 3, 4, or lot 1, lot 2, and so on. And you know, make it look modern, so that people who have not gone to America or to Dubai, they have their own Dubai right at their doorsteps, and they don't have to die in the desert to go to Dubai. So there's a need for us to do that. It's very, very important, because we cannot put new wine into old wineskin, and it doesn't matter what you do. Yaoundé can never be a beautiful city, let alone Douala, because of this chaos. So we must do something different.
Is it very urgent? Or are we already late to start thinking in that direction?
No, we are not late, Mr. Liu. The issue is most of these great towns we have today came up during the colonial era, and there was no town planning by them. These are, we call them, cities born out of eruption. They just erupted from somewhere. They were not planned. The most planned city in Africa is not Cairo, it's not Rwanda, it's Abuja. Abuja was built by Ghanaians. A well-planned city. The most planned city in Africa is Abuja. And this was because Lagos was one of those hubs of colonialism in those days, where most of the trade activities took place. So the place started growing very fast. And there is something we call in geography conurbation. It's a merging of cities from one town to another. And most of these towns are coming together not because there was a plan, but because people were building haphazardly. Yaoundé, Douala are one of those cities that came as a result of the colonial era and as a result of independence. They were not cities that were properly planned. And for us to get a better capital this time around, I think we have to learn from other countries. For those who have not traveled to Dar es Salaam, Dar es Salaam is a very big city, to the extent where you can get missing. There are urban buses that you can get missing at this spot. You go and stand here, they will pick you and then take you back to where you missed your way. So because of that, they had to shift the capital to Dodoma. So the capital has left Dar es Salaam because it is more of a commercial city. A capital city is an administrative setup that's supposed to be spacious. It must be airy. It's supposed to have a plan. But Dar es Salaam is that kind of city that suddenly came up like Douala. Businesses have entered everywhere. People have built where they're not supposed to build. And because of business arrangements, council officials also collect money and allow buildings to go to areas they're not supposed to go because of corruption. But if our space is taken, Yamoussoukro, the same with Abidjan, those are cities that if you check the history of those countries, when colonialism was coming up and development and independence, those are the cities that were very, very hot. So they are more of commercial center because businesses are established there. Yaoundé is also one of those cities in Cameroon. I think there is a need for us to start creating Douala B, Yaoundé B, Douala C. Because why? If you go towards this camp area, this home camp area, around the Yabasi area, you have a very undulating plain there, very smooth, right? They can be able to do proper planning. Because now like this, if they open new layouts in places like Bonaberi, Tico, you will discover that those new layouts are properly planned. I agree with Mutengene. Mutengene is choked up and haphazard. But there's a new layout around the Planticam area there. The streets are properly carved out, roads are carved out. People, you go there, it's like a senior service quarters because there is a plan of action. Who drew the plan of Douala? Where is the plan of Yaoundé? Because the houses are just choked up. If not because of what Fuda came as the mayor of Yaoundé, the government delegate by then, and did some serious breaking of houses and tried to open up space, there's problem. And also there are indigenes in particular communities who have lattered there for long. There are certain chieftaincy, palaces that cannot be destroyed. But they are standing in positions where they need to be crossed out. How do you tell a royal family to pack out of a place they call themselves the Otutuns? I think the gods in that place will wrestle against you. So in order not to bring a lot of inconvenience and this traffic, this congestion we have in the city, it's time for us to start creating other towns like Douala B, Yaoundé B, Douala C, Yaoundé C.
Yes. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam?
Yeah.
Yes, let's take the case of the capital city of Cameroon, Yaoundé. How do we start creating another one?
Oh, by the way, you know, when I was talking about Yaoundé as the country's capital, and I mentioned Ebebda as the capital of East Cameroon, probably I would have completed the thing by saying that, so that everybody is in the picture, by saying that West Cameroon, the capital of West Cameroon, will not be Buea, but we'll move it to, for the same reasons, we'll move it to Mamfe in a place called Bacho Akagbe. For those of you who have traveled, or you can look it up in the map, there is the road that goes from Bamenda down to Kumba, and when it is passing, you know, it doesn't go directly through Mamfe. Mamfe is off that track, and so if you have to go to Mamfe, you have to branch if you are driving down from Bamenda, you have to branch to your right, and right.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I think you go about 20 kilometers or so to get to Mamfe town, if I'm not mistaken. So that junction town, it's a beautiful area, and you could put a beautiful capital there, and I guess that's where the capital is going to be. So for the same reasons, because it doesn't matter what you do, Buea can never be beautiful. So that said,
Buea is beautiful.
It's beautiful to its extent, but it can never be Abuja. It can never be.
Yeah,
we are giving it.
Buea is not the national capital.
No. Listen, let's go back to the drawing board. We have to rebuild Cameroon. Okay. And if we are going to be having the state of West Cameroon and state of East Cameroon, they must also have the state capitals. And we said that there's a lot of congestion in Yaoundé, and there's a need for the state of East Cameroon to have its own capital in Ebebda, and there's this need for the state of West Cameroon to have its own capital in Bacho. And don't forget, the national government is going to provide the money and the resources to build these two capitals. And these capitals will have to be built by the youths of Cameroon, not foreigners. Now, so that they're equally beautiful, enough money is spent in all of them to get it right. Now,
that's for the case of if there's West and East. What of the case where we don't have these arrangements? Like
which arrangements? West and East?
Yes.
We must have the arrangements. There's nothing like we don't have. So let's not argue about that. So let's continue with our reasoning, because that's what we must have. We have to stop this carnage. We have to make things work. We need peace, and that's what the dialogue will be all about. Trying to find a way to this, because
you're talking from the crystal ball.
Well, some people say they don't want. I mean, it's revelation knowledge, and I'm just a messenger. I just state it. So it's the writing on the
position of Apostle Ambe, yeah.
It's the writing on the wall. I don't know. You know, when I think the writing on the wall it had to do with King Nebuchadnezzar, right? Yes. He was having his party, but it is Nebuchadnezzar and one or two other people who read it. I think he's the one who actually saw what was written.
He was the one that saw it. He was not the one that interpreted.
Yeah, but the other people were not seeing it. They were not seeing it.
So in your case, you see and you interpret.
I see, but Ambe is not seeing it. So it's my privilege to be able to see it. That said, forgive us the joke, but I know Mutong. So we have to we have to go back and really go to the drawing board and do things properly. If we don't do things properly, we are not going to get out of our mess. That's the bottom line. And like I was saying, the capital or whatever we will build as a city in Ebebda is going to decongest Yaoundé a lot. We are going to take out the regional services that are in Yaoundé and send them to Ebebda. Then if there are some organizations that have a large population or that deal with a lot of people that we can take to Ebebda without causing a lot of disruptions, they are taken out. And then some big schools too are taken out and sent to Ebebda. Then the population and the pressure in Yaoundé would come down. Then you'll be able to destroy some structures and try to correct what you couldn't correct and so on. And then there will be some opportunity to breathe. Then like Apostle Ambe was saying, even in the Yaoundé, you could just leave the Yaoundé. You know, like there's those places called Mfu, all those kind of places. When you go out to those outskirts, actually map them out, you know, as new satellite cities around this old Yaoundé. That's why when you go to developed nations, like Washington, there's the inner city, inner Washington or something, because they also kind of like developed like that. They have this old, like the old town of Bamenda. They have these old things sitting in the center of the city, but you have newer cities that are linked to this one that are built around it, that are more developed, and we just need to do the same thing. Because what we are having now, we're just having this primitivity that is just spreading and keeps spreading. We need to say stop and actually be intentional about the development, where we go out to the peripheries and really lay them out and so on, build good roads and so on, so we begin to have satellite cities around Yaoundé itself.
Yeah, but this very disorganized nature of our cities, towns, because we're talking for Yaoundé and Douala. Other cities are not better. Above some, Bamenda and other cities, they are not better. Who is responsible for this chaos that we have observed this while?
No, for the instability in the cities.
Yes, disorganization.
No, we cannot actually attribute the blame to anybody.
Okay.
History should be held responsible for that, because I have seen mayors and government delegates who have tried their best to see how they can break down some buildings, and they face severe problems. Those delegates came and mayors tried to pull down some houses. The houses of the personnel in question were even stronger than the delegates in position. So there was no way they could bring down those things. Like the case of Fuda, if you don't know of Emma Basil, also the government delegate of Yaoundé once, and Fuda, where people who tried to really restructure Yaoundé, they did their best. They actually pulled down buildings. There is a mayor who came also at Bonaberi, at the zone industry, and tried to pull down the houses in Kumba, and many families were frustrated. I think if we have to follow the actual plan of the city of Douala, a lot of persons will be touched. And shockingly, some personalities who occupy higher ranks in this country, their houses are positioned in places that if they are touched, it will bring problems. So sometimes the person who is sent to carry out the assignment is not even as strong as the person who owns the building. So sometimes they get frustrated because there was no planning in those days. You know, the Europeans came to Africa with their interest to extract and go. They did not have the interest to develop. It was a German that had development mentality. That was why you see they could have camps in those days that they built for CDC workers who were working in the plantations. But since the French came here, you cannot see any French building you can boast of. You cannot see structures. But Paris is the most planned city in the world. How do you explain that France was our colonial master, our cities are not planned? Yet back in Paris, Paris is the most planned city. And Britain also is a colonial master, and London also is one of the most planned cities in the world. How do you reconcile those two things? Because the people who came there in Africa had no interest. Before Paul Kagame could bring Kigali, the third green city in the world, and the first green city in Africa, it took a lot of sacrifice. People were offended, but because the person in question who was carrying out the activity was stronger than those who own the structures. You can't send a delegate to go and destroy a minister's house in Cameroon. Kagame himself was there. If you look at Burkina Faso, when Kankara came to power, there was a little restructuring in the city because he himself had to go down into the field with caterpillars to bulldoze down some buildings. This time around, you will see Tone will take caterpillar to go to Bonamusadi to go and break houses, or Bonanjo to go and break houses. When he reaches there, the authority that is having that house is bigger than him. So he tells the caterpillar to turn. I'm telling you what some of those authorities faced.
Yeah, but have we not also seen situations where some of these mayors, they will deliver, because most of these houses, they have building permits now. How do you validate building permits for structures that are constructed in areas that they ought not to?
I mentioned corruption here. I mentioned corruption at the interest of some people. As a matter of fact, the plans of certain places that are newly developed in this nation are in the hands of city and government, city mayors and government delegates. They will look where road was supposed to pass and still sell houses on that particular, still sell lands on those particular spots. The whole thing ties down also to corruption and greed. That's the truth. As long as the delegate is in power, all he's looking for is for his interest to make his money and go out. They are not working for posterity. They're working for prosperity. If leaders don't work for posterity, that's the next generation, and they work for prosperity in order to fill their stomach, that nation will go nowhere. So this thing boils down to corruption. It boils down to greed. It boils down to a self-centeredness. And that is the reason why you see, if you go to some places like America, your community as a mayor in that community, it's something else. It is a challenge. When leadership does not become a challenge, people can never work and give their best. The issue is everyone is looking for their means to survive. If at all there was order from above, then it would have affected almost everybody everywhere. Somebody said, people cannot do better than who is going ahead. The person who is going ahead is a pathfinder and a role model. Whatever they see in him is what they will duplicate from behind. And that is exactly when you see some cities are not planned, is based on the authorities in question. So we need to get into seeing to the fact that authorities get to check things for themselves and make sure things are executed.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. Coming right back to continue with our program.
With DSTV English Bag, your subscription enters a new dimension. It's so nice, it's so nice. Movies, series, novellas, emotions are more deeper in English language.
That part is a little dramatic.
Enjoy La Liga from the front row and the Premier League in immersion. On Nickelodeon, English is just superpower absolute.
For the surprise, please go now.
With E and One Magic in original version. Reality TV becomes real TV. And on African News and Discovery, News and Discovery shines worldwide. Post new programs with a DSTV English Pack option of Color Plus and its 15 premium channels. Accessible as from 5,000 friends. Take advantage now.
Apostle and Reverend Mrs. Ngwa invite you to a 5-day program, Feast of the Tabernacle, from the 24th to the 28th of November 2021, under the theme, Provoking the Sworn Blessings. Guest ministers, Minister Gashimia, Minister Eta, Reverend Paul Tom, Dr. Rogers Fogwe, and host Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa, Reverend Ann Ngwa. Venue, Church Auditorium, Antia Road, Bonaberry, located at the Afrigas filling station, 200 meters from the road. Be there and provoke the blessings of God upon your life.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We are going to continue with our topic for tonight's edition, which has to do with the need for new cities to be created in Cameroon. Should this also be outlined in national policies? That is, when you say, I want to change this, I want to touch the health sector, I want to touch the educational sector, there is need to start reviewing the ways our towns are supposed to be developed. For example, in Egypt, the nation is constructing a different capital, very beautiful, because Cairo is so populated. In Senegal, there is a vision.
Change from Dakar.
Yes, as presented by President Macky Sall.
Yes,
should we also say this in national policy?
Yes, of course. When we come to Cameroon, if we are looking at the things, isolatedly, we would think something is wrong. But in reality, it's the whole package that has to be fragmented, and you say, okay, when I take this bit, what is there that we need to do to straighten it? Because we can rephrase the whole idea. If I were to ask you, for instance, tell me, go through all the ministries and all the activities we have in Cameroon, and tell me in which area we show excellence. Can you be able to do that? Show us one activity that we carry in Cameroon, it doesn't matter where, take the private sector too, which shows excellence. You might only notice excellence in the multinationals like Orange, like MTN, and I don't know what again, but everything else functions below the normal.
You mean there's no excellence at St. Louis?
Sorry? No, we are still to get there. But when you are trying to do the right thing in an environment that is not supportive, you use a lot of energy and you fight unnecessary fights. So what we are saying is that we need to have that mindset of innovation. Innovation is innovative thinking out of the box and doing it differently. Because we have all been going like that with tunnel vision, there is need for us to stop and say, let us rethink all the strategies and go to every sector and find out what exactly do we need to do so that we can be more productive, so that we can be more innovative, so that we can catch up with the rest of the world. That is what we need to do, and we need to take every sector. And probably we are taking housing and town planning today because it bothers everybody. I mean, think about it. Barrister Achu was supposed to be with us here, but he left his house in Bonaberia and he was stuck in traffic at Daido for more than 1 hour. I think he's just got fed up and gone back. That's what congestion is doing to us. Just find out when people are going to their offices in Yaoundé, many of them arrive their office at 10 a.m. But because they are stuck in traffic, it doesn't matter. They might try to do the right things, but they are stuck in traffic. The traffic in Yaoundé now is horrible. If you try to go to Obili, to Mendong, to Simbok, all these areas is hell. It's really hell. And first, the roads are very tiny. Like if you're passing in front of Vatican, the roads are very tiny. They are obstructed by cars. There are potholes. There's dirt. There's everything there. Nothing is working. So we are addressing that because it's our habitat. Our house has got to be clean. We have to have a cadre de travail, a cadre de vie that is acceptable. And when you ask Apostle Ambe a question about who to blame, I have a little worry with our ministers of town planning and whatever. They all travel and go abroad and they can go to places easily. Like for instance, I could give you, Apostle Ambe, I could give you an address. I say, okay, you go to my house in Japan, to a country called Japan. You go to a city called Hiroshima. You go to a street called Ambe. Then you go to house number 3 on the street called Ambe. Then go to the 3rd floor and collect a key, and then go to this other place and go. If the signs were written in English, you'll be able to do it without asking anybody.
Of course.
But can I send you to Bastos? I can't. Can I send you anywhere? I would say go to this bar and ask this woman who's roasting fish and so on. It's because there is no town planning. And I have not understood why why our people in town planning don't try to do something in that light. I know that they try to copy the system in France where they have some small boards where they write some numbers on them and so on. I have never really understood what those numbers mean. I know they're from this high-tech kind of thing, but we should have streets which say this is Barrister Achu Street, this is Dr. Ngwanyam Street, this is this man's street, this is Kum Street, and so on. This is house number 1, 2, 3. If we do it like that, you know, sometimes when thieves attack you at night, you could say, I'm on Achu Street, house number 4. The gendarmes will know where to come to here. If you call police and gendarmes in the night, you are in real trouble.
Okay, you are in real trouble. We are still looking at our second topic for tonight, which has to do with the possible movement of cities in Cameroon, so that when you come visiting Cameroon, you should also think that you've gone to Europe or you are in one of the best nations across the world. But we have just been joined by Sir Achu Julius. We thank God he was able to beat the traffic and is in the studio with us. He certainly is going to say something about the first topic, which had to do with Confederation. But before we get to him, Apostle Ambe, Valentine, we talk about new cities for Egypt, new cities for Senegal, new cities. We already have Abuja.
We have Dodoma, we have Yamoussoukro, we have...
But where is the problem in Cameroon? Why don't we think this way? Is it not also because almost everybody wants to grab something to themselves? The people in Bafoussam say, this is what we want for Bafoussam. These people in men that say, this is what we want for... And we see there is no national coordination that says, this is what we want for the nation.
I think there is first and foremost a national plan for every nation before a state plan.
Yeah.
I think the state or the government does not need permission to a greater extent to plan certain cities. If there is no national plan and there is no vision for a nation, then leadership is in problem. There is supposed to be a particular picture we need to have for our capital. Paul Kagame wanted Rwanda to be a green city. They were not supposed to go and deliberate or begin to contemplate on how it will become. Everybody was to align. I think every nation is supposed to have a national plan. If we are, this area of our country is one that will take dams and other things because of the physical features. Because you develop regions based on their physical features. And if at all we are going to Southwest, this is a rocky area, this is a mountainous area. We make resorts in this area. We make amusement parks in this area. It is based on the physical features in that area. If we are making Kribi a touristic site, it's based on the physical features. There's a waterfall there. That's how you plan a city of a nation. You don't just get on and begin to think that, okay, Yaoundé should be like this. No, you should look at how Yaoundé looks like.
And anybody does what they want.
That is what the problem is, because they used to say, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. If there is no plan in place set by the government, because if you go to Europe, they will tell you the kind of house to be constructed in this particular environment. You don't buy a land here if you are not building in this standard. I think some people have traveled, they have that knowledge. There's a particular pattern they will give that the houses in this area must have this paint color. I know in Cameroon, in southwest around Tico, the color is yellow. If you don't know, go and check the town plan of Cameroon. Particular environments have particular colors. The people build there and put green, white. As long as the mayor is giving his money, he doesn't bother what the national plan of the nation looks like. How do you go to France? You walk in a particular street, all the houses are the same. It is a national strict order giving that if you are not competent enough to build in this structure, don't even pass around this environment. Go to around the Quartier General in Yaoundé. You look how Aïdo wanted to plan the city. He had an intention to, the houses in that environment have a particular pattern, which it was like a design he picked from France. Then he wanted to set up that area in that capacity. So why would people not build anyhow if there is no plan? They are opening new layouts every day. That new layout should not just be given to people to build. There's supposed to be a
market?
Not just a market. I mean, the urban plan is an urban city. It's an urban area. They should give a particular pattern of building. If you are not competent to build, don't buy land in that environment. How did we get senior service in those days? When the Europeans came here, senior service quarters were quarters that were set aside for the big guns, and there was a particular pattern in the building and the partitioning. If you see, most of the senior services are places where the Germans built in those days, and you go there, you see the places are properly planned. Because why? That little environment was given a shape. Now we are opening new layouts every day. You go to new layouts in Bonaberi here, some houses are zinc, others are plank upstairs, others are half block, half wood. I mean, what plan? There's supposed to be a pattern given to the people to build. If you cannot build, then don't go there. That's how you plan a city.
Welcome. We're going to revisit to some extent Confederation. We spoke about that already. Since you were not there, but we are going to touch it a bit. But I want you to look at it. Are we not also suffering because of the economic situation of the people in Cameroon? For example, a city like Douala, you have people who can barely feed, but they need a home. If they manage to get a piece of plot, even in the midst of villas, they struggle to put up a plank house just to cover their heads. How do we accommodate them in this circumstance?
I would like to first of all apologize for coming late. I would like my panelists to bear with me that it's very unfortunate. I'm usually on time, but this time I couldn't make it. But in any case, I'm happy to be here, and I wish everyone a nice evening, as well as your televiewers. You know, Cameroon is a country which is very particular and peculiar in its approaches, in its nature, in our way of doing things. I can tell you, Cameroon has an urbanism plan, a plan for rural areas, and the structures which are supposed to be built in every place in Cameroon is already predetermined. But what happens? Most of us don't care about the legal dispositions of the country. We ourselves. Nobody, I can count in a town, in a town like Douala, I can count how many people even take the pain to consult the urban or the mayor, the mayory, to get a license to build, a permit to build. Because normally to get to put up any type of structure in a town like Douala, you're supposed to be authorized by the mayor of the town, which means you bring your plans. You should know where you want to build, and the architectural plans have done by professionals in such a way that it should be approved by the mayor of the city. Most of us don't do that. And if we transform in such a way that we want to respect the legal dispositions of the country, I'm sure there will be rioting. There will be rioting. See, at the end of the day, the approach, the government, I'm sure the government decides to take a very loose approach to such things, because I can bet you 9/10 of the houses in Douala or in most of our cities are built without appropriate plans or authorization from the authorities that be.
Yeah, but the authorities have been observing it for a very long time, and we were talking earlier on the need to create. Why not create another Douala along the Yabasi stretch, or another Yaoundé somewhere? Yes. No. If you notice what is going on in Douala, have you gone to an area called Bonangando? After Lendi, that is Douala town stretching out of behind here. Yes, stretching out without many people don't know, without many people noticing. If you go equally towards Dibamba, the town is stretching towards that area, and most of the lands they are already occupied by people. They've been bought, and people are struggling to build and whatever. But you see, the way we do our urban planning in Cameroon, it is both at the national level and at the local level. And most people are more comfortable dealing with the local level because it's easier, because you are dealing with your neighbors. Those who are giving authorization should be your neighbors, your brothers, your friends, or whatever. So it's easy to get to benefit from administrative tolerance. And that's what is happening. There's a lot of administrative tolerance that people don't seem to know. In such a way, if the administration decides to implement the laws in this country, I'm sure I'll say the rioting, the revolt that we'll have will be terrible. Will be terrible.
And it is not, it is this tolerance that has been going on for too long that has made people to take things for granted. If you notice, there was a certain area here called Douala Masoke, where people were building in water. The mayor had to use force, something like that. They had to use force to build a drainage. But to do that, it was not easy. To do that, to break down some of those buildings was not easy. They had to be bringing the military, use force until something could be done so that the other people whose houses were not put down could live at least a decent life. So it is a complex situation whereby we need a lot of tact, we need a lot of intelligence to know how to tackle such issues.
But given that, Dr. Nick, that is what we are living today. And can't we foresee what may happen in the next 20, 30 years?
That's right. So we now have to change our we have to have a vision. We have to have a vision and not just keep going navigation à vue. What is going on is navigation à vue. You go from day to day. But this time around, we have to be intentional and plan. And plan for a city that would be great, is still great and accommodative in 60 years and 100 years. That's why we are saying that we have to be able to, you know, like Barrister was explaining here, it's very difficult to go around breaking those structures. And the law says that even when the government wants to break, you have to compensate those people. If you take the total amount of money that you're going to compensate those people, at the end of the day, it's not worth the trouble. So you want to move out of there and go to some virgin land and plan something that has all the facilities and amenities to cope with a growing population. And you create, I mean, you just keep creating and open up many kilometers, you know, from the epicenter, so that if whatever is happening years afterwards, they follow that plan. If you do that and then people are schooled and so on, then the town would grow normally and will be okay. But in this old system, we need to be able to create satellite towns to decongest the center. Once you decongest the center, then little things that you can move out of the way to improve it, you move those ones, and then try to polish up and improve to as good as you can. But whatever you do, it cannot be as beautiful as a newly built city. Oh, like I was speaking, is this good example? And so many of us, we have bought old houses. When you go and you buy someone's old house, the house already has its old tiles, old toilets. The plan is there, you can change it. Then you try to change it. Even if you change the windows, knock off the roof, it doesn't matter what you do. It's not as good as buying a virgin plot, drawing a plan, and building a house from scratch. Just about that. So if you try to correct a poorly planned city, whatever you do will not be as good.
Is Yaoundé a capital reflective of Cameroon?
Not at all, Mr. Liu. You see, people don't understand how prestigious this country is. Cameroon is well respected in the CEMAC zone. As a matter of fact, it's known as the giant of the CEMAC zone. But we've flown to a few of the African countries, even though we cannot boast of N'Djamena, we cannot boast of Libreville, we cannot boast of Africa, Bangui, we cannot boast of. The only capital that is a bit better, yes, Equatorial Guinea, because I've gone through Gabon within 2 hours. I've gone through the whole of Libreville within 2 hours. So it's not, if you go to Mabongo University there, it's like a primary school here. So, yes. Yaoundé, it's better than every other capital in the CEMAC zone, but to be sincere, it does not reflect the pride of Cameroon, the prestige and the honor this country carries in this particular region. First, because of its exploits in the domain of sports. Secondly, because we are the breadbasket in this CEMAC zone. And then considering the amount of educated people have in this country, and almost all the neighboring countries come to study here.
We are the lone bilingual
country. Congo
Africa
comes to study here. If you go to the Digital University in Saint Malo, I have 300 children from Congo who are studying there. University of Boya used to have people from Equatorial Guinea coming to study here, Chadians coming to study here. So the dignity and the prestige of our nation, we do not deserve that kind of capital. Yaoundé does not have the plan, it does not have the infrastructure, it does not have the look of a capital of this nation. We have a big name outside, but we do not reflect that name based on our capital. I'm talking as a Cameroonian.
We need a capital that could reflect what the Ivorians saw in Japoma.
Of course, we need a capital that reflects. Just like people can say Cameroon cannot boast of the Olympic Stadium, Japoma Stadium, that we have stadiums in this country. At least as a nation that has taken the Nations Cup severally, and we have gone the first country to break the record in the World Cup by going to the quarterfinals, we deserve such stadium. Our football name did not reflect our stadia. And now in Cameroon, we have a name of a nation, the giant of Semak, yet we don't have a capital that reflects it. So it's very deteriorating. Kagame recently attempted building a Vision City. It's called Vision City in Rwanda. It was a flop. It failed. It failed big time. He looked for an expanse of land, trying to plan the city and work it. But now he's building a $5 billion green city. That is a vision. It falls back to leadership. John Maxwell said everything rises and falls on leadership. And I can tell you the truth, if at all leadership at the head is sick, at the bottom it will not be well. I told somebody that you can go ahead without being the head. It doesn't mean that you must be the head to go ahead. I flew with a South African aircraft to go to Libreville once, and I was sitting behind, but I leaned on the expertise of the pilot. We all landed at the same time. So if the plane did not land, you hold the pilot. We cannot play low on leadership. The leadership problem in Cameroon is a problem. That's the truth. Why did I land in Libreville at the same time with the pilot? Because I submitted to his expertise, I submitted to his skill, I submitted to his intelligence, and I submitted with my time and my money. But when we landed, we all landed at the same time. If Cameroon is going to be better tomorrow, it has to go back to leadership. That's the simple truth. Let us get to the place of leadership and see how we can better the country. If the nation is sick, then leadership is sick. So town planning is not something that we are going to be talking again. When they realized they could not break down buildings in Lagos, they changed the environment and created a better city called Abuja. Let us consider that Douala and Yaoundé are already congested. Let's look for a good environment to create a new capital. And then let's sit down and do proper town planning. In geography, the thought is map reading. When you look at certain signs in the city, you will know. You cannot know signs in this city. You cannot look signs in the city and know where something belongs in this city. So I think we have to get back to the drawing board and get to a place where we can create new cities properly planned. If you see Dodoma is not as big as Dar es Salaam. There's properly planned in Tanzania. That's a new capital. That's a new capital. Dakar will soon not be capital anymore. Cairo will not soon be capital. And the best city in Africa in those days was Cairo. They look at the beauty of Cairo, yet they are thinking of shifting Cairo out. Cameroon has already attained.
The new capital is almost completed.
Yes. So we need to get back. The leadership is the problem. Is the problem. I'm telling you the truth.
Okay.
Do you know that there are government-built houses? The houses might not be expensive, but they are uniform-like and properly planned. The problem is not the cost of the building. The problem is the plan of the city. The plan is different from the cost. You don't need to have money to have a good house. You don't need to have money. You need to have a plan to have a good house. If you enter into someone's house who is stupendously rich, he can be very scattered. You get to somebody who is properly organized, you enter into his house, he's not having much money, but the way the place is settled, you understand. So we fail in our planning. We don't have a challenge with the finances.
Just 1 minute, let me top up before you go to Barrister. When we are talking about how chaos we are, you probably will not get it. But when you fly, I mean, it's very embarrassing. When you fly from Europe or anywhere else and come back home, and you're flying over the city of Douala, seeking to land, and you look down, at those marshy places, and you look at the whole city, you feel like crying. Even when you're in Yaoundé, when you're in the plane and you look down, honestly, you'll be ashamed of yourself. The disorder and what you see, it's very painful. Thank you.
Barrister, some people are not doing their job somewhere.
Of course. I've always said the problem with Cameroon is Cameroonians, not aliens or foreigners. We are our own problems. One thing we should understand, for example, I agree with Doctor that I myself, whenever I'm landing from Yaoundé at the Douala airport, I'm so pissed off, I'm so cross when I see what is around there. We should understand that normally nobody is supposed to build any house around that area.
Yes.
Because there nobody has a land title. So those guys who are living there are illegals, they are squatters. Those things are supposed to be put down. But you find that area, they're close to 600,000 or 700,000 people staying there. How do you do it? You see, we should be ready for two things. Either we go there to get a bloody nose and do it and cry afterwards, or we don't do it. So as of now, I feel this responsibility has been transferred. Because if I go through the law on special status, so much has been transferred to the local authorities. That's why I always say, for this thing to work, special status or whatever, the local authority who's in charge should be enlightened.
The president should take the responsibility.
Yes, should take, for it to succeed, it depends on them.
Do you feel them?
As of now, we are still looking and watching. It's something new. Nobody can actually say who is who and what is what. But I still feel that if those guys are the guys that would think can make this country move, they can do it. We talked about making a new capital for the country. I buy that idea. Because, you see, the biggest projects we've ever had in this country so far are the stadia. Those are the stadia that have been built. But what is surprising is the fact that the supervision of those stadia was done by the presidency. What is the Ministry of Urban Planning and what are they doing? So you see, if the presidency didn't take his responsibility, say, okay, let me handle this, no other person should be capable of doing it. I still think that road infrastructure, for example, should go back to the presidency too. The secretary of the presidency is doing a good job. Okay, I don't know what the Minister of Public Works is doing, because if you look at our road infrastructure, I don't think it's very laughable. But the means is there. If you know amount of money they spend for such things, and you don't see the results, it's of course we have to worry. We have to be worried. You say, I'm supposed to talk about the head. The presidency took the stadium and look at it. It is a wonderful success. So it means that the president has confidence in other Cameroonians, decentralize some of his powers to some of them, but they're not doing the job. What do you want him to do? So I think when you see in this country, it seems as if we have two governments, at the presidency and at the prime ministry. It is because at any point in time, the president will say, yeah, enough is enough. Let me arrange some of these things myself, rather than delegating it. That's why I see it. And I think it is high time that we will transfer these big projects back to the presidency for there to be a real authority to manage them after the success of the stadium.
The Babaju road is still there.
My problem is not even that. My problem is the ring road. The ring road has been promised to the Bamenda man, to the Northwest now for how many years today? It's still untouched, which is not fair. It's not correct. Why? Because those who are supposed to do it are not doing it. We don't need to expect everything from the presidency all the time.
But do you really? We are talking about. You say powers have been.
So now it is possible for regions to look at financing with just superstructures. It is possible.
Okay, they can now think
how to do yes.
New cities.
New cities, of course, methods of financing, how to go about it, how to manage it, how to expand villages, how to transform the towns and things like that.
But why this is very silent?
You see, everything comes down to the vision that Apostle said. You don't have a vision. The person who's dead must have a vision for his region. If you don't have that vision, you will do nothing. You don't have a good, on top of the vision, you don't have a good team. Because what you like it a lot, somebody who is president manages the brains of others, not his own brain. So you need to have a good team to work with. You need to give him a good support from the regional councils and the House of Chiefs for him to succeed. So he must have a vision, present it, have it approved, and start executing for things to work. Without which,
are they still studying how the special city is supposed to work?
You know, they are just barely 1 year in power, and I believe the effectiveness of this thing will be felt in the next 5 years, not today.
People were killed in the Northwest and Southwest. We did not hear from the presidency. Are they still studying how to respond to such things?
But you see, that's why I say the strength of a presidency of a region depends who is on the seat. I was very happy with the chief of Bambalang. When someone was killed, yes, he made a write-up. I was happy with him. But what happened with the presidents? We're still waiting. Maybe, when it has to do with things that have to do with the state, it's not has to. It's not supposed to be precipitated. Most of it takes its time.
The governor in the Northwest has reacted. The ministers have reacted. They are waiting for a special.
But again, you see, there's still some legal complication. The head of state has not yet taken cognizance of the fact that they are presidents of region. So their powers are not still full. They've been sworn in court, yes, but there's an allocation whereby there's supposed to be some presidential acknowledgement of whoever they are. I don't know if it's been done yet, but I believe that's what they're waiting for. Then on top of that, they still have this mindset of waiting for the government to get money. In the world today, there's a lot of alternative sources of financing. A lot of it. And those who are there are supposed to start thinking of how
to get private individuals to invest.
For example, you don't need to ask somebody to do the ring road and control the tolls to get back your money. The people put down the money on the table. Don't put the money on the table. You say you run another road, Douala Yaoundé, and you control the tolls. People will put the money.
So the regional presidents who are watching, you better come up with a vision of opening up cities, and then you get the likes of Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, the Njefobis, and just tell them that this is an opportunity for you guys to invest, and then you manage it for some time. And that's what the former mayor of Boya, Bela Mukicha, did on May 17. Build, operate, and transfer. The council gets it after some years.
Yeah, BOT is a good tool for development. Build, operate, and transfer. Now, as we were talking, you know, we've all been watching social media and TV. You know, it comes back to what you are saying. Nigeria is a big place, but you see, the governor of Calabar is doing great, and then there's Ibom, the guy who has
Emmanuel
bought, who has bought, is it 10 new aircraft, and they have an aircraft in their own state. I mean, their airline system beats the one of the whole of Nigeria. You know, so when you have leaders who are, like Barrister was saying, who are enlightened, who are benevolent and despotic, you know, it is good, you do it, you know, but you must first have the mind to know what is good. And then you do it not because you're greedy. You don't do it for self-aggrandizement. You do it for common good. You do it to help everybody. That's what benevolence is all about. Despotic means that once it is clear in your mind that what you are doing is good, is great, you don't go rallying people to vote, to find out whether to ask their opinion. You go for it, you know. But you do it even if you fail, but you go for it, knowing within your heart of hearts that it's a good thing that you wanted to do. Even if you fail, nobody will crucify you. But here, we make a lot of speeches and go round and round in circles, and at the end of the day, we achieve nothing. Just like you were asking about the regional presidents. They're sleeping and drinking nimbo, and people are suffering everywhere. Yeah,
but are there some key benefits that are supposed to come, especially economically, job creations with the creation of these new capitals or cities?
Mr. Leo, give 10,000 francs in the hand of a visionary leader, he will give you an enterprise in 5 years. Give 1 million in the hands of an idiot, he will come back home with barefoot. Jacob left the father's house with words. The prodigal son left the father's house with money. Jacob came back with a generation. The prodigal son came back empty-handed. Everything rises and falls on leadership. The regional presidents have to understand that there are 4 categories of leadership. I'm talking to them now, listening to me if they take the baton of leadership. In Habakkuk 2, we say, write the vision. That is the director. Make it plain, analyzer. He that reads, relator, will run with it. That's the promoter. This cycle of leaders is supposed to come together. There's somebody who is casting the vision, the big picture. And those people who cast the big picture do not have the patience to give analysis. There's supposed to be people who are supposed to take the vision you have casted on a drawing board, break it into pieces. They are individuals have to take it now and relate it with the society. And others now have to promote it either verbally or financially. If this is not done, and we say president, 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 the issue is we are taking the level of an institution and giving it in the hand of an individual. The president's mind is too small to manage everything. So when somebody hear that leadership has failed, it has nothing to do with an individual. It has to do with a caucus. If at all we have the regional president, he has a bureau. Anything that fails, the entire bureau should be held responsible, not an individual. And the reason why Cameroon is retarded is because responsibility meant for a crowd is giving the sole decision for an individual to speak before things are being done. It's not possible. So that Cameroon has to grow. Listen, Mr. Lou, the earlier we start acknowledging persons who have what we need, even if they are not siding with us, the better. Because if you look at it critically, Daniel was not a Babylonian, but he had what was needed in Babylon. They bypassed nationality, they bypassed religiosity. He was not worshiping their God, but they needed the talent in him. We should stop this religion in this country where people are not worshiping our God. We don't see them relevant. If they are not in our party, we don't see them relevant. Let us go into the kingdom and handpick the persons who have what it takes to grow the nation. Let us practice nationalism rather than practicing multipartism. Okay. Multipartism is the disease in this country, not nationalism, because nationalism breaks the tie of political ties. It broke the barrier.
Yeah, but we have been complaining about lack of job creative instances. We expect that the private sector should be able to create these jobs. Is the creation of cities not also an opportunity?
That's a question to Barrister. But let me just step in to just complete something that Apostle Ambe was saying. This is the problem of this nation, and I hope that I can bring it out so that we understand. In this country, we have, it's in every country anyway, the workforce is divided into the civil service and the private sector. But the civil service in this country has been raised to some kind of a pedestal and everything. And when you are working in the civil service, you have a civil service mindset, a civil service mentality. The civil service mentality does not develop anything. And if you now go back to our regional councils and whatever, the elites that were picked from that went into those structures came from the civil service, where they were not producing anything, they were just following rules. So now they go into the community where they're supposed to be using their brains to be productive, and then they just sit. And they used to sit there and get orders from somebody. They go sit there and still expect to have orders, and the orders are not coming. So that's why we are seeing that problem. I just wanted to step in to say that we have to break away from this civil service mentality and embrace the private sector mentality, the entrepreneurial mentality. Because when you say entrepreneurial, you mean problem solving.
Yes, I was asking about the fact that creating new cities and towns also creates many jobs here for our unemployed youth.
That is very possible. But we have a country whereby Cameroonians don't think about being creative. He said it all, civil service mentality. Everybody wants to work for the government. Mm-hmm. Everybody feels that you should have some power to have some signature, and that's enough for him. Nobody seems to say, look, let me do something which they'll remember me for a lifetime. In Cameroon, we are 70% consumers. We produce nothing. Mm-hmm. Our business sector, on which we should rely on, most of them are buy and sellers. Mm-hmm. They are not really interested in building up the industries to produce even what they import from elsewhere. They are no longer interested. And they are supposed to be the one to spur up the government to change the laws to suit industrial development, technological development, and things like that. They don't do it. To show that it is possible for them to influence such things in the country is, recently GCAM was complaining about the cost of importation. Mm-hmm. That because of COVID, the maritime transport prices have risen double, or has gone times 10. So, and since our tax system involves calculating transportation and the cost of oil purchase. That's how the tax used to calculate. So the government has decided to cut down taxes on transportation of 80%, by 80%, which is an incentive. It means that the businessmen can make things work, can make things change.
If they sat quiet, the government will not.
Government will not do it. The civil servants will sit quiet and say, oh, everybody's happy. Why should we bother? That's the issue. Why should we bother? Then, you know, we have a system whereby the brain trust of this country never get himself involved in politics. So in such a way that we usually say, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. That's what is happening to us. We've abandoned politics to people who are not that intellectually strong like us, like some of us. We have the ideas, we spew them out all the time, but it becomes impossible to practice it because you are not where it is supposed to be practiced. I even tell my colleagues lawyers that the day in this country that 20 lawyers will be parliamentarians, this country will shake. I said, let's do it. Why can't we become parliamentarians? Why are we living everywhere? Because as a lawyer, we are supposed to participate in legislation of laws in this country. We are supposed to. It's supposed to be automatic. But we don't go there. We don't even dare.
Don't worry, we'll be.
We allow it for others who don't know much about law to legislate for us. So you and me. That's what the problem is. Let me understand. I just say, look, okay, we have councils which are the ones managing locally. Why can't we even become councillors? Well, I try to check around. We can count the number of lawyers who are councillors in the country. How do you expect legislation to come out that will fit or suit our society? Or we'll sit down and blame those who are attempting to do what they can because we have decided not to participate. That's the problem of this country. And the only intelligentsia that is participating actively in politics are teachers. That's why you understand, if you go to the education sector, they have their laws. And most of them, they like it that way. Because they are participating in making it work. Because you know, at one time, we have a government of professors, doctors, lecturers, and whatever. They've done those things because that is their field. It's been well done. What of the others? I would expect that in the parliament will have doctors, medical doctors, who can make sure that our health situation is well taken care of. But I think we can count the amount of medical doctors in parliament. So it's the same phenomenon in the whole country. Those who are supposed to help the country grow, to do those things that at the macro level that will affect the micro, they are not there. So the few who are there try to do their best, but you know they will all sit down and criticize and insult them and give them names. And that's our country, and we know it, that is the truth. Okay, for example, on this table, how many of us are politicians? Maybe I try to prostitute politics. All of us are not, but I know that we could be very, very, very wonderful and great politicians, but doctor and apostle in this country if they want to. We are not interested. Everybody admires, and for example, they admire your ideas. But how do you implement them? You cannot take a square peg and put in a round hole or vice versa. So yeah, the ideas you have, to transmit to the person who executes it is very difficult.
Okay.
So why not become the person who executes?
Okay.
That's where we should be.
Good evening, Mr. Leo and the panelists on board. Great barrister for me for speaking the truth as it is. I owe him some wine. Okay. Emil is writing from Jutin. Daisy from Kumba says, good evening, Mr. Leo, and to all the wonderful panelists. I'm enjoying the program and gaining ideas. I wonder if a new capital or cities will help Cameroon in any way, if it has to be. It can't be now that the country is unstable. Okay, good evening to you, Daisy. Sumbele Kelvin from Kongsamba says, good evening, Mr. Leo, and your wonderful panelists. Quite interesting program. You guys should keep up. Okay, good evening to you, Kelvin. Now, some people think that talking about this is not important. Is it not the time to talk about it when we think that there is a possibility for Cameroon to enter a transition? Should we not start talking about and looking at that?
Well, you would have noticed that for quite some time now I've been interested in politics. And I'll tell you that I became particularly interested in politics in December 2008. And it's His Eminent Christian Cardinal Tumi who who told me what to do, because he explained very clearly what Barrister was telling me here. If those of you who know what should be done are not advocating and trying to see how you fix it, if you don't play politics, politics could play you. So if you just sit in your little corner and Ambe sits in his little corner, everybody sits in a little corner, the whole country will come down, and you have a couple of people who just care only about themselves. They will run the nation, and whatever they decide, you will have to follow or they kill you. So if you have to survive, you must be part of the politics. It's very important. Then I'm sure you have seen on WhatsApp there is this picture. There is this picture of a man, a donkey, and a boy and some load. And in one of the pictures, I'm sure they replaced the boy with the wife also on different scenarios where the man, they try to play different scenarios where the man puts the load on the donkey and he and the wife are moving on foot, and they go through this village and they are laughed at. And all the scenarios are played out, but you always have people who laugh at you. It's very important that we are aware of that picture. And that picture tells us that if you think there is something that is great that you want to do, just go ahead and be doing it. There will always be naysayers. There will always be people who would say, crucify him. Crucify him. There are people who always shoot you with banana peelings. While we are praising President Paul Kagame here, there are people in his country who would kill him if they had the chance to.
Yeah.
So don't think that if you really have something that is good, that's the bottom line. If you have something that is good and you think you are not doing it based on selfish motives, and you are doing it for common good, and you think what you're going to do is going to help people, is going to help the nation, go ahead and do it irrespective of what people are saying or doing. Whether they hate you, that's no problem. And I got the courage to say this because if Jesus Christ himself, the Son of God, has not been accepted and loved even till today, who are you? So don't bother about what people are saying. What is your vision? What is the mission? Why are you doing the things that you are doing? What is your motive for doing it? If the motive is right, go ahead and do it. And that's the spirit I want to encourage everybody to have.
Okay. Now, moving cities, will it not also be very costly?
I have said, and I'm still repeating it, building a good city is not cost, it's plan.
Okay.
Building a good house is not a cost, it's a plan. If at all we are able to bring and map out a plan, because you see, building a city is not an event, it's a process. The government cannot be that poor that they will not be able to cover a kilometer of houses in a year, tar roads of a kilometer in 1 year, and then say wait 1 year or two again, progressively.
Or give portions of the city to private individuals.
Individuals to construct it. Yes, individuals can construct
like what
it.
Kagame is doing presently.
Yes, you construct, you invest. Okay, let me give an example. The General Overseer of Redeemed Christian Church was given a forest. How did he develop the forest? Christians in the church who had means, he carved out the city and gave them properties, land to build. As they were building, the city was developing. As they were building, the city was developing. So individuals who could build in those areas should just take that a plan from the government and a particular amount of money you pay. Government is not the one that has to go to new layouts that are open today. You see how individuals are building there. There's no government who is building those new layouts. Go to Mutengene, there's a new layout open there. Go to Limbe, that is Sokolo area behind the stadium where there's a new layout there. Government did not give us individuals money. Government just told them that this place is habitable now. Then you will know that Cameroonians have money. So developing new city is not solely the responsibility of the government. It is a combination of the government and the citizens. But now the government should be the one to draft the picture of what they want the city to look like. It's certain. Draft the picture and tell us like this class, this place is a middle class, this place is aristocratic class, this place is for the lower class. Houses that are not expensive but are uniform-like, classy. That is it. People can build 2-bedroom flats which are uniform-like, they have the same paint, they have the same design, they have the same structure given by government. Government give us the plan, allow us to build. In some years to come, people come in that locality, they will not know if it is government or the people that build the environment. The issue is call the shots, tell us what you want in that environment. This place is a drainage, this place is a street, don't build here. So when we are coming in the future to tie that environment, we'll not face any difficulty. We'll not come and be broken houses again to create space. That is it. We have town planners in this country. There is a ministry responsible for that. They should be able to go to new layouts and carve. Yaoundé is about, Douala is about connecting with Edea. Why don't they go towards that gap between Edea and Douala
and map it out?
And map it out? Because people already been to the environment and tell that this is government's instruction. If you want to build here, if your capital is this amount, be in this environment. If you can build this amount, be here. It can be. So you can give a 3-class structure of individuals living in that environment. I have said it here that if the whites came to Africa and built senior service, everyone was not senior service. There was a camp cohabited by field assistants, so those parents work in CDC, engineers and managers, and there was a place cohabited by campers who were tappers and the manual laborers. You enter the camp, you know the class distinction, but there is a uniform plan of a CDC camp. Why don't we take those camps and form cities? Take those camps, the pattern, make better buildings. Simple. Your capital exam was 3 million. Houses for 3 million can go in this area. Yours is 50 million. Okay, a kilometer from here has to 50 million. You are naming the environment based on the class structure. You and I study history. We had the Nobians, the plebeians, and the aristocrats. So there should be a class structure. They should distinguish it based on your capital. Not everything there is the same. But the problem is, let somebody enter the environment and feel that this is a planned environment.
Yeah, you're right. CDC was about doing it in any case.
That's it.
I was private to know about it, about transforming the camps into modern cities.
Good.
Until this crisis came in and destroyed everything.
We have sample of such buildings around Limbe already.
Yes.
That project was initiated by the former GM, the late Ngwanyam.
Yes. Even the present GM too started it. Was already garnishing, looking around for financing to do it, but.
Unfortunately, we pray that things come back to normalcy, but I want us to end with what we started, Confederation. You think Confederation could help us, security?
Confederation as a word is interesting. But practically, if you go around the world, there are only about 6 to 7 confederations. Why?
Okay.
Because it's not something very popular in the system of governance of the present day world. You see, for confederations to work, those involved, the states involved, should be quasi-independent, partially independent, and strong.
Exactly
to be capable,
exactly what he said.
To be capable of sitting down and write out treaties and conventions and agreements, and that will bind everybody. Without that, it's not possible. So you see, like the Dominion of Canada, it started as a confederation, though it's now drifting from a confederation to a federation. The European Union is a confederation. If you don't know, it is a confederation.
It's a league now.
Yes, it's a league of
different
countries coming together for common good, but their confederation is limited only to economy. The European Union is a confederation limited only to their monetary policy, economic policy, marketing, and all those things, and free movement, but not defense, foreign policy, and whatever. Everybody maintains his sovereignty on certain issues. So why it will work is because the states are already there and strong enough. Everybody can stand in salt. So when everybody can stand in salt, you can now sit together and talk. But you cannot for a structure, like Cameroon, for example, our structures are still very weak and not powerful enough. We still have strong people and not strong institutions. In such a way that those strong people, how are you going to beat them for them to change things? But if we have strong institutions, that will make our regions very tough in such a way that they will not be capable of sitting down and agreeing among themselves as to how to govern this country. But for now, I still think the only way for Cameroon to function, it is to have an enlightened despot.
Okay.
Somebody who smiles and who frowns. Somebody who beats you when he's supposed to beat it. Somebody who takes the right decision for the good of the people.
Yeah, but I think severally you've said that we need an enlightened despot also.
Enlightened,
Benevolent.
enlightened. These two adjectives must go along and must be part of the person's character. Number one. And when we are talking about this despot thing, it's not just the big man on the top. Like we're saying, even the councils, everybody, it's a mindset of leadership. Should be enlightened. Enlightened means you have to know the economics, the development, the education, or know those things. The entrepreneurship, you must be enlightened.
Benevolent.
You must be benevolent, means you have a good heart, you can do things for common
right
people.
things.
And then despotic, that means you know it's good, you go for it, you institute it for the common good. That's it.
That's what
and that's what we need in this country present day.
Yeah. Democracy doesn't work in poverty.
Yeah. Even in riches. Even when there's money, it doesn't.
Because, is that what God says? That is what we need now.
Yeah, we need an enlightened, benevolent despot. It's just that the ones who are in this country are not into politics.
Okay. Yeah, but how do we get them into politics?
That is a billion-dollar question.
Because the political terrain here is very slippery.
No, you expect who to fix it for you. You have to be there to fix it for it to work. For it to work, you must be there, not outside, inside. As it's boiling, it boils with you. You say, no, this piece of bone in this part of the pot shouldn't be there. Move it over. And that's the only way we can succeed. When we leave it and stay outside, and you expect those inside to do it, hey, you'll always be surprised what will happen. Participative. We have to participate in the growth of this country. Yes. So we should be everywhere, every time, when they need be. We shouldn't shy away.
Okay. We have come to end this edition of the program. Next week, we are going to be discussing about our federation, the different groups that are advocating for federation in Cameroon. They're going to be having a press conference on Saturday. It's going to be virtual. After what they will say, we're going to follow so that we can analyze on that next Monday. But I think there is need also for us to look at the silence of our regional assembly presidents. Yes. I don't know whether they're waiting.
We need to spur them up.
I don't know whether they're waiting for the president.
No, they don't have what it takes.
Put them into action. Yes.
They don't have what it takes.
No, they don't need it.
Yeah.
They don't need anybody to give it to them.
Yeah,
they need to take it.
Yes.
They're not giving them.
They cannot take it
They
because
can take it.
they cannot take it because they don't in their genetic material. They don't have what it takes to make it work. It's just something that just fell on them, and a lot of things are going to work after the upcoming dialogue. After the upcoming dialogue, where we will have our West Cameroon and our East Cameroon, where we'll have the Ebebda capital built, where we'll have the Bacho capital built, and where, you know, when all these things are put in place, a lot of things will work after the dialogue, but as of now, nothing.
This is the problem we have. When we want to talk about the form of a government, it is political. You should be capable of having a majority in the National Assembly. You should be capable of having a majority councillors. There, it will work. If you just sit and be spewing the ideas and talking, you see, we'll end up having enmity. We are now quarreling over nothing. Meanwhile, maybe what we are saying is good enough. So what you need to do is convince the majority of people to accept it. Give you become a presidential candidate with a party or something. Give it to the people. If they buy it, you execute it. But once we don't do that, and we still insist, we keep insisting on it, without doing that practical part of it, you're going to create this hate, which is which some political parties brought into this country. That if you are not with them, you are against them. Meanwhile, ideas, nobody has a monopoly over ideas. Nobody. Okay. But you should be capable of convincing the greater majority for the good of the country.
Okay. We want to thank you, Barrister, for coming.
No, it's my pleasure always coming to my media prime and sitting with you to talk about our country, especially with Dr. Ngwanyam and Apostle Ambe. It's usually very enriching. Everybody goes home happy.
Apostle,
For today, it's different. There's no conflict. We seem to have the same ideas, presented almost the same way. It's great. It's a great day.
Apostle, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. It's always a joy to be here. Cameroonians, we're trying our best to build Cameroon. God bless you.
Okay. Thank you too, Dr. Nick, for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having a barrister again with us. And like you can see, the minds are coming together, and we are looking at solutions, real solutions to solve these problems in the country. And you know, there's a war going on now. We are looking at ways and means of stopping the war. And we all know that like they said, like Ambe was saying, it's a collective thing. Everybody has to bring their part. You know, we think that it's only the president who can solve problems. No, it's the President Paul Biya is doing his own bit. We all have to do our own bit. But if the elites and the people to whom you have given power don't do their bit, then the country suffers. And we think all these kind of things will be corrected in the days ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Leo. Great to see these great minds you are hosting. Their contributions can greatly move this nation if only the powers that be can listen. Good evening to you. I'll call you Ngwanyam Julius, who should be watching us from Bonaberi. Many messages, we can read all of them. Hello, my name is Quinty from Limbe. I have a proper writing projects on urbanization and town planning, though I studied computer engineering, so I need people of great minds like Dr. Nick, Apostle Ambe, and Barrister Achu to help me push this. Yes, these are the minds we actually have to. Send me the contact. Okay. Yes, I'll send you Dr. Nick's number so that you can contact him. He says so. We want to thank you all who took time off to watch this program. Thank you to you, Desmond, and to you, Eli, for producing this edition of the program. Thank you to you, Tabi, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising the work we do out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.